realize and are very aware of the fact that we're an ocean, we're an ocean culture. We rely on the ocean for subsistence. Kachemak Bay is a great place to recreate and get outdoors and get that fresh air and have that healthy piece of a lifestyle. We're asking people to do so safely, and with that comes, go out, do that king trolling that you want to do, or jig for your halibut, but then come back to Soldovia. Try to limit any travel in between the communities unless it's deemed as for your personal needs.
Well, along those lines, and the coordination that you are trying to do within your community, how is that also supported across the bay in Homer? And Brian, I'll jump to you and ask how your harbor is supporting those travel mandates, and what have you done to engage your public awareness and encourage compliance?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think first off is that we've been working with the other communities, the other harbors around the state to try to have a consistent message out there for the vessel owners. When it comes to people in Kachemak Bay that are coming to Homer for their critical travel, which would be, to access health care or to get supplies, that is allowed in the travel mandate. And so we support that. The non-essential travel is another matter, of course, and that's, the purpose of the mandate was to limit the non-essential travel between communities for us to shelter at home and to recreate within our own communities. So I've been answering emails and questions on phone calls and stuff from folks, on up the highway that are interested in recreating. It's as everybody said, the weather's getting nicer and people want to get out. But the purpose of the mandate was to limit that travel between communities as much as possible, except for critical critical personal needs. And so we've been messaging that as much as possible. Working with the state to come out with signage for the harbors that we can put out there that, so we're all putting the same message out for the public. And also communicating a lot with the fishermen's groups. Fishermen have really taken this on. The commercial industry sees it, as high priority, number one priority for this season to get their fleet online, with this travel mandate and getting their travel reports in so that they can operate as critical infrastructure.
Thank you for that. So we talked a little bit about what our private vessels can expect. Can you dive in just a little bit deeper on those individuals who want to launch from Homer? What can they expect when they pull up to the harbor?
Well, the harbor's open, the launch ramp's open. We will not be questioning people where they came from. That's for every individual. Every one of us in the state has to determine what is essential travel and to comply with this mandate. I think education is the most important thing. I have sent out, the questions and answers page from the state's explanation of the mandates and gone over them with folks. But it's up to the individuals to make that decision on their own. We won't be enforcing the state's mandates at the harbor. We don't have the staffing for it. And I think that's not ultimately the goal or how it should be put out to the public. We educate and we promote, and as individuals, we all have to do our share. So the
Very
harbor's
well
open,
said.
to answer your question.
Very well said. For those who are joining us late, or I think we may even have popped in here midstream from what I'm understanding, I want to reintroduce our guest. We have Brian Hawkins with us from the City of Homer. He is our harbor master, as well as Cassidy Cameron. She is the city manager for the City of Seldovia. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Also with us is Dan Nelson, our incident commander, and he will be providing an update at the end of our community conversation for those who may have missed the introduction and the update in the beginning. And we apologize for the technical difficulties that we've had tonight. Miss Cassidy, you had shared with me a few unique things you were doing to encourage public awareness and to get the word out to those folks who don't have internet. Can you share with us how you're doing that and why that's so important?
Sure. So yeah, there's quite a few individuals in town that don't have internet or their connectivity is very limited. So we want to make sure that everybody has the information that they need to make those decisions for their families and their households and themselves in terms of protecting themselves and protecting the community against COVID. We've sent out, we just drafted and sent out, I think it goes in the mail tomorrow, a mailer to all of our post office box holders. That gives a lot of information of what the City of Seldovia is doing, what our emergency management team has been preparing for, what kind of abbreviated services the city has right now. Our city offices are closed to the public. However, you can still pay your bill and contact us, and we are still conducting business as usual with our new normal. But people do have that option to pick up the phone and call us and get information and contact us. So we still are available. But in that newsletter, it also gives information of how people can stay updated. There's the state website and the state phone numbers that they can call to get some COVID-19 information as it pertains to the mandates and any of the case numbers or the updates that the state is providing. And we just share information. We want people to be aware that while we are off the beaten path, we are not going to be immune from this virus, and we want to do everything that we can to protect our community, but also make sure that they have all of the information that everybody else does. So we have that piece. There's a volunteer community group also that is grouped together to provide all the information of the businesses and what services they're offering and some of their abbreviations. So if the restaurants here are doing takeout orders, or the grocery store has abbreviated their operations. And so it's just kind of a weekly newsletter that they put out of any local updates that people might be interested in getting through this emergency together and effectively with good information for us. So we're trying to come together as a community and check on our neighbors, whether or not they have internet or just the good old phone call, but we are trying to make sure that everybody is contacted.
That good old fashioned landline phone tree might be old school, but it's very effective. I want to come back to Dan Nelson, Incident Commander for the Kenai Peninsula Borough. And we have talked before about the med transport plan that is in place in the event that one of our smaller communities is in need of med transport. And here we have two individuals representing communities, harbor communities. And if you don't mind sharing with us what that entails, if it's needed, and how this is a collaborative effort, please.
Of course, thanks for that. And so when we talk about medical transport and how do we transport people that may have some type of medical emergency or even routine medical need, places like Seldovia and Homer Homer, of course, has South Peninsula Hospital and has some resources, but depending on the need from that community or one of our communities on Catchmack Bay, there certainly is much more of a likelihood that somebody may be flying or taking some other type of transport. We recognize that. We certainly know that that is business as usual in these communities on a day-to-day basis, but when we bring this pandemic in, that's introducing an entirely new layer. So typically we're talking about commercial vendors and being able to work with them and making sure that their airplanes or their conveyances are able to be able to handle this and to be able to be decontaminated. And do all of those things to ensure the safety for all. So this medical transport plan has been a collaboration with those folks, with the transport providers, the cities, and the villages. So basically what we have is we've got a couple different options. So we have some helicopter services that are able to provide service to any of these areas. There are 2 companies that provide service. In addition, we have several water taxi options that are available to us. And then we've also had some volunteering of assistance and logistics and things from some of our NGOs, our non-governmental or nonprofit organizations. So all of those services working together kind of make up that plan. And all of those things are dependent on weather and dependent on time of day and conditions, but I think there's enough there that we've been able to have a good plan. And that really came about with that collaboration with the city of Seldovia, with the villages, with all of the healthcare providers in the region, getting together and making sure that that day-to-day plan could be adapted to our new normal.
Brian, can you share from the Homer Harbor's perspective the support or the alternate solutions for med transport there in the harbor?
Sure. Yeah, we realized that with Seldovia that there would be a chance that patients wouldn't be able to fly across the bay with the normal air carrier, which would be the normal way that we would bring a patient to Homer so they could get care at South Peninsula Hospital. So we worked with the water taxi service that is working year-round and serving Southside residents, and with the city of Seldovia and the first responders and Homer Fire Department, and came up with a plan that we laid out on paper with all the contact information and everything. So in the case that we have a patient that's in Seldovia or someplace on the south side that has symptoms of this virus, we could transport them on the water taxi. Water taxi company came up with some protocols that they would put in place, and they have currently with their normal day-to-day customers. And we feel that we can safely transport a patient across the bay on water to meet an ambulance at the load and launch ramp in Homer.
That's definitely a coordinated effort. With regards to the smaller villages, are you seeing supplies being taken out of your harbor, such as to Halibut Cove or to farther southwest to Port Graham and Nanwalek? That's a bit of a boat ride.
Yes, absolutely. It is. Nanwalek has been supplying the groceries for their grocery store with one of their own vessels for several years now. And this year, communities were stretched because the ferry stopped running. So the Alaska ferry system was running into Seldovia normally, and they stopped running at the other time. So we've seen an uptick with the water taxi service hauling freight over, and then I'm sure Cassidy can fill in a lot more information on how folks are getting supplies in town. But we do see a lot of supplies, materials coming through the harbor and to the communities across the bay. And when we're talking to Southside residents, we're really talking from Bear Cove to Dan Wallach, English Bay. So it's quite a long distance of areas, and not all of them are road connected or have docks. So some require special vessels to make those landings.
Definitely a coordinated effort in that regard as well, and all the more reason why these mandates need to be followed, and folks need to do the right thing. Cassidy, can you share with us your supply challenges or coordinated efforts to get supplies to Seldovia?
Sure. So I feel when I was thinking about this question, I feel really lucky that we have options. Granted, it's not as many options as a that's on the road system, but I feel grateful that we have options to begin with. Our local grocer, Crab Pot Grocery, has been receiving their supplies and groceries on a somewhat regular basis. And they've really stepped up in terms of making sure that people have what they need in the immediate, in the necessities that they need right now. So they've also abbreviated their operations. So they're limiting the number of people that are in the store. They're requesting that people wear face masks and gloves if possible, and follow those social distancing, stay 6 feet apart, but they are operating, which is absolutely a blessing for us. Our restaurants have also stepped up to the plate and offered, they've created ordering processes for people in the community that they can order off of their vendors that they're using and get those orders coordinated, and logistics are all in place, and then they get here, and then somebody can come pick up whatever they had on order with them. So they've really kind of broadened their horizons and adapted and offered that service to our community, which is a really big thing. And then, of course, we do have the ability to access Save You More and Safeway for Bush orders. And both of those grocery stores have really stepped up to the plate, and I know that they have a long queue. So there's a bit of patience that needs to be had when getting your, putting in your Bush order and waiting for it. But it is a great option for us because it limits and it minimizes an individual's need to feel like they need to go across the bay into Homer and possibly expose themselves or just be in that community. And it just minimizes the amount of movement people are needing to take. So all of those options are being utilized by a lot of our community members, and it's really great that people are making that choice, making that individual choice to do the right thing and stay home if at all possible, and make those little changes that'll make a big difference in the long run. So we're really grateful for the grocery stores and the businesses that are helping us out in there, and Smoky Bay and Mako are bringing over those supplies on a regular basis as the weather permits. And so it's logistically a couple of more steps, but at the same time, it's really a positive thing for our community to be able to get those groceries that we need.
Good, very good. Brian, I'm going to come back to you and give you the opportunity to share with us some key messaging or closing comments that you have.
I'm sorry, the last thing you said cut off. Can you repeat? I'm sorry, Brenda.
Key messaging or closing comments that you may have.
Key messaging, yeah, I think that going back a little bit into questions here, how we're getting the public notices and outreaching to the public besides the internet. Our public information officer is doing radio spots on the KPB local radio, and I think that is well, if people listen to KPB around the Bay, And that's a good way to get messages out too. As far as closing comments, I guess just everybody hang in there. We're still climbing the hill, and I think we're making a difference, keeping people safe, and what we do now will make all the difference in the future. So let's just hang in there and work together, and we'll get through this.
Very well said. Thank you, Brian, for your time tonight as well. Ms. Cassidy, your key messaging and closing comments?
I do want to thank both the Borough and Homer for the coordinated efforts that both organizations have offered and supported Seldovia. Without everybody working together, we would be in a much different spot, and we just really appreciate those efforts and everybody's same goal of trying to protect our communities, stay healthy, be safe, practice all the social distancing and the good hand washing, and get outdoors and stay healthy. But with everybody's cooperation and help with following these what seem disruptive changes to our regular lives, I think in the end we'll all be better for it. And so I just want everybody to really realize that together we can make a difference. And please reach out to the City of Seldovia if you have questions or need more information. We really want to encourage people to educate themselves, and if we can be helpful in that regard, we're here for you. So thank you.
Thank you for your time tonight. Dan, if you don't mind giving us a recap of your update again, since we came in live stream, kind of midstream, if you will, I'd appreciate that.
We did. Thank you so everybody for your patience on our technology, and as we're all getting used to doing some of these new things. So let me talk a little bit just about some of the things on the state and local level. Today we had some updates for case count. We currently have 235 total statewide positive COVID cases. One of those cases is in Kenai, so that brings the total cases on the Kenai Peninsula to 14. The governor announced several new mandates and updates to those mandates today. I want to address the first one, Mandate 13. This one is a directive that schools will be closed in Alaska for the remainder of the school year. So distance learning and remote learning and those programs that the schools have put into place now will still continue. However, that in-person those in-person programs and educational activities are called off for the rest of the year. So I'm sure we'll be hearing more from the school district and those folks on specifics. So please stay tuned to their social media platforms and some of their information. We also, of course, put on our blog at kpboem.com. There were two updates to two mandates, mandates 11 and 12. That is the mandates related to social distancing and intrastate travel. And of course, we've been talking a little bit about travel here within the Kenai Peninsula, but those mandates have been extended until April 21st. So we have 12 more days here. That decision will be reevaluated by the administration based on data from the Department of Health and Social Services and other sources. So we know we're in this definitely for the long haul. We've got some additional time where we need to do the right thing, and Brian and Cassidy have just said it wonderfully, where all of the things we're doing now are going to make a difference. So let's continue to do that and make sure that we're keeping people safe, and we're all being safe and healthy. At a local level, we continue to work with our cities. We've been finishing up some of the arrangements with all of the hospitals on their care plans and their ability to surge and be able to take additional patients when that curve starts for us. So we're still going to work to flatten the curve, but as has been said tonight, is really we're all going to continue to do the right thing. As we're out and about and recreating, we need to, of course, it's a great thing to do. We want to encourage people to do that, but we certainly have seen an uptick in visitors to our recreational facilities around the Kenai Peninsula. So when you are out of doors, please make sure you are maintaining that social distancing. Remember that 6 feet. When you're on trails and other things, communicate with those around you so everybody can maintain that distancing and keep a safe and healthy environment for all. So let's we'll keep that in mind. And that's really a good way for me to end my update. I again appreciate Cassidy Cameron from the city of Seldovia, Brian Hawkins from the city of Homer. Great folks and great cities to work with. And we here at the Borough are very, very fortunate to be able to work with all of our cities at different levels as we kind of figure out how this goes. We're getting new things and changing the plan day to day, but doing our best to be here for you and making sure that everybody is safe and healthy. So I want to thank both Cassidy and Brian for taking the time tonight. Again, apologies for the technical difficulties. We'll get this licked one of these days. Whenever we think we have this figured out, well, Facebook or something throws us a little bit of a wrench. So thanks for that, and thanks for your patience. Brenda?
Just want to remind everyone that we will be back here on next Tuesday. We are doing our live broadcast on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Of course, this slot will remain open at 7 p.m. in the event that things change, and we want to get you guys the information as quickly and as effectively and as accurately as possible. And then one last shout out to someone who I respect very dearly, who I will remain nameless, or I will not give her name. But she said something to me today that really struck home, is that glitter test. And if you've got it on your fingers, and we've all done those projects, are you able and mindful enough to know that you are not going to cast that glitter as you go from one area to another? And if you are, then you probably aren't exactly effectively doing your part to practice physical distancing, practicing those mandate recommendations. So I just want to shout out to her. She knows who she is, but that glitter effect really did ring true for me today. And with that, you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Good night, everybody.